Oh, okay. Wait, so do you
Yeah.
exactly believe in the multiverse?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. Wait, so so about that topic, right? Um, I think
Yeah.
like when I did research on it, about like the fictionalism, it has like multiple interpretations. So then I found like the modal
Mhm.
fictionalism. Then I found out what you were talking about when you said, "Oh, some people just use fictionalism to say, okay, these possible worlds that we exact necessarily say exist, aren't actually
Mhm.
something that actually exists. Rather, it's just fiction and just mind dependent." So
Mhm.
I guess you can just tell me a little bit about that.
Got you. Yeah. So it's basically like what I told you, where like the entire idea of it is like, so when we think of like a possible world, like you said, where like, like, oh, there's, I wore like a gray shirt, but there's also a possible world where I wore the brown shirt, right? So fictionalism is basically the only world that exists, or like the only world that there is the one where you wore the gray shirt. And then the brown shirt one, that is, the possible world, it's just a world you made up and it has no like actual like existence like value.
Okay, yeah, I think that's definitely what. So this is just what I read, right? And then I
Mm-hmm.
came up with a couple of questions of what modal fictionalism people would ask. So what we know is modal fictionalism is not normally fictional. It's about the claim that it is possible that there be a species of a, like, for example, let's say a tailless kangaroo, like basically a kangaroo has like a shorter tail. I don't know. But rather about the claim that there's a possible world in which there is a species of a tailless kangaroo. And then they said, okay, how are we supposed to discover facts about them, and how isn't it like extravagant, or I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, to believe that just because a situation is possible, it must in some sense exist? Like, how would you respond to
Mm-hmm.
that exactly?
How I would respond to it is basically like how you explained it to me, where it's the idea of like, if it, possibly exists, then that means there has to be a like form of truth value to its existence, therefore, necessitating the possible world.
Yeah, like what I was gonna say is, wait, did Reggie just leave?
Oh yeah. I
Oh,
told him like I was gonna discuss with you, and he like said it was okay, but I guess he just doesn't like philosophy.
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I would have said, about the claim when they said, extravagant, to believe that just because a
Yeah.
situation is possible, it must in some sense exist. I guess they're saying like that we're like that's too much or something like that. I would have said I don't think
Mm-hmm.
so, because the mere fact is when we talk about something being possible in a modality or modal realism sense, that possibility is what we call a possible truth, right? How this possible truth works is if something like a state of affair does
Mm-hmm.
exist, and these state of affairs are something that can obtain, then they have to have somewhere they obtain it, right? So we use possible worlds to say something exists that didn't exist in the actual world, right? Because as we know,
Yeah.
they can't exist in this worldview because they didn't happen, but it could have happened if these expectations
Yeah.
are met. So right, so we just imagine a possible worldview where these state of affairs did obtain.
Yeah.
So I guess now what I would ask you is, they also said something like this. They said, "How can we prove these possible worlds objectively exist?" What would you say?
Objectively.
Yeah.
I guess you can just, well, for me, I don't truly believe that, like, besides like things, of course, like math, for example, like that's of course like an objective truth.
Hmm.
But other truths, how I see it is like we go with the most probable truth. So like from the explanation I gave you before, I would just say, like it's the most probable outcome.
Probable outcome. Probable as in like this is
Yeah.
likely true. Like this would be have
Yeah.
some type of evidence. But I think if we're just saying like,
Yeah, it would be the most likely.
yeah. So, I think how I would respond to this is we do definitely have some type of evidence that do proves the existence of possible worlds. Like even if we can't like physically view these worlds, because I do think that's true. Because if we was to like physically view these worlds, then it wouldn't necessarily be considered a possible worldview. It would just be like something
Hmm.
that's like obtainable to like the physical world. Um, but the thing is, like how I like to prove they exist is like a thing called like counterfactuals. Do you know what that is?
No. Can you
Oh,
like tell me?
yeah. So it's like a type of modal discourse that we used to say something would happen if there were different circumstances, right? So like think of the example
Ooh,
like
okay.
this. Yeah, let's think of the example like this. If I gave my plant more sunlight and water, then it would have lived longer, right? So when we say
Mhm.
something would have been, it means a past tense of will, right? So it's
Okay.
yeah. So if the fact is, if those expectations were met, then this will be the outcome.
Yeah.
So in this example, there is already a truth that exists because that is the case that I can say that there's a possible world where this state of affairs did obtain in. So we can say there is evidence for the existence of possible worlds. I think we definitely can.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
I'll definitely.
what
Yeah, I needed that because
yeah.
originally, like from what you told me, I like agreed with it, especially from like the videos and how I explained it. I just didn't know like how to fully like prove its existence. But with
Yeah.
that, I can do that.
Yeah, because I think like just people just randomly trying to say, "Oh well, there isn't evidence for this." But the thing is, I feel like if you're denying, this, you technically would be, saying that okay, the truth into the way these things could have been doesn't exist. That's technically what it is. And it's like I even haven't.
Yeah.
I don't even think I haven't actually found a person that actually denies modality, at least for the most part. I don't think I
Hmm.
found someone that does. Now, when I said we can't physically view this world, because I know we were talking about the multiverse theory and stuff like that, like yesterday. Now I do still agree that we can't physically view these worlds, but I do want to clarify. I do think there is a way to view these worlds, not physically but consciously. Like I think we can separate our consciousness by like switching our observations to another world we exist in, and stuff like that. I
Hmm.
think, and like how would you think of that exactly? Like, what do you think of the sound of that?
Can you? My bad. There was like a dude asking me to like debate, so I was like focusing on that. Can you like, if it's like not a problem, can you like repeat what you said?
Oh yeah, 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 sure. So I said I still agree that I don't think we can physically view these, possible worlds, but I do want to say that I do think there is a way we can view these worlds, maybe not physically, but definitely consciously. Like I think we can, somehow separate our consciousness by switching our observations to another world we exist in. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I agree with it.
Okay. But yeah, I just think in general, just denying possible worlds would be like denying, like, let's say, modal metaphysics, and modality as well as modalism. But all these things are definitely
Yeah.
true. So modal fictionalism is definitely false for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. After like watching the videos, I think I told you this, but I became a theistic modal realist.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Like basically arguing like God existing through these possible worldviews. I feel like that's the best way though. Like if you're gonna study like modality, then you should lean to like modal realism so you can learn about these
Yeah.
existence of these possible worldviews.
Uh,
So wait, so what do you think of
do
like?
you want to like? Do
Wait,
you
go
want
ahead.
to like judge a debate quick?
Oh yeah, sure. What is who is it
Yeah.
against?
It's over. It's a dude named Divine Sage. He wants to like debate me over fiction.
Yo, isn't that the same guy Kuiper beat?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We'll talk about the what is it called? The like the multiverse. Like would we necessarily say that you know something that's like a fictional verse, can it like, actually exist or something like that?
Mhm. Oh, so you're saying like for fictional verse, are you saying like something like Marvel?
Yeah, exactly. Like I think there's a way, like I don't think that's like illogical at all. I think like you can imagine a reality where that reality does exist. Like a
Yeah, I think you can as well. I think you can like imagine where like that reality exists. Like I can like imagine a world where I'm like throwing hands with the Hulk and I beat his ass. But like the act- like the actual existence of it, I don't really think like the possible world like actually
Yeah.
exists though.
Yeah, I don't like I wouldn't like try to like I feel like you have to like be very careful when trying to argue like okay that type of reality exists, even though I obviously do think it exists. I mean, we may not have concrete evidence for that exactly, but
Yeah.
we do have like, other people experiences. Like I think this is what we call like, I don't know, let's say reality shifting or something like that. Like
Hmm.
many people said that, they have, consciously, switch their observations to like other realities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Now I wouldn't say like okay, if you were to say like a cartoon, like
Hmm.
you were to say like some type of cartoon or something like that can exist. Like let's say freaking SpongeBob. I don't think like you can think of a reality where that exists. I think that's just pushing it. I think that's illogical.
Yeah, yeah. I think like anything like that's actually real. Like for example, like a possible world where like trees are blue or something like that. I think like of course that can exist, but like where I'm throwing hands with Peter Parker in a swimsuit, yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, no. Wait, so would it, you did ask me something about like the infinite possibilities and stuff like that, and then you said something about the multiverse. And then
Yeah.
it dealt with like fictionalism and stuff like that. Like, can you like warm my brain up on that real quick? If
Yeah, so what I was talking about with like fictionalism is basically like with that it was just the idea of like what was it? I kind of forgot. Let me try and remember. Oh, okay, so basically with like the infinite like multiverse and infinite possibilities, it
Mhm.
was like going over like since we're talking about like possible worlds, if you believe in like infinite possibilities, then like wouldn't you also be saying like you believe in like an infinite amount of possible worlds? And then with fictionalism, if we're doing over that, they believe like these possibilities like do exist in our world, but like the outcomes of them, like the only outcomes that did happen is in our world, and that there's other not other possible worlds where that actually occurred.
Yeah, like I think yeah. See, that's the thing, because I actually had like a similar person that said like the same thing about infinite possibility. They say, oh well, since there's infinite possibilities, I can imagine anything I want or something like that. But I said, see, the problem with that is this is literally something that modalism talks about. When it comes to infinite possibilities, even just within like basic modality,
Yeah,
when we talk about infinite possibilities, it's not the fact that we're just imagining anything. It's just the fact that these infinite possibilities or these possibilities are actually something that are actually able to happen, right? So they
yeah,
have to be something that are actually able to happen. You can't just imagine something illogical and say, okay, well, that I can imagine a possible world where that exists. No, 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 that's not how that works.
yeah, yeah.
But I think you can like argue like the SC. I think that the SCP verse can exist in another possible world.
Nah, yeah.
I
Yeah, in a
think
different possible world, the characters from like Blue Lock exist, and like in a different possible world, like Kaiser kicks the balls and like kicks them into your balls, bro.
yeah. Or what about the Fanaverse? Do you think that's like illogical? Or would you say that exists? I think that exists, bro.
Maybe.